You know, the problem with winning is that my guests get a lot more expensive every single week. What's even worse is that what they don't know is that I can see them down here, and what you're about to see from one of our guests is a new level. So prepare yourselves, but in genuine, sit back, relax, enjoy tonight's podcast as we talk about Arsenal's fourth win in a row. Hello and welcome to the Gonna Talk. Back again with you guys for another show. Mike, I mean, you could, that could be so misconstrued. It says Ute in at the moment.
Can't believe it. Can't put it all on his chest.
Yeah, it's the two Utes I want to be highlighting today. So you'd think it would be like way spread out and you'd be able to see the whole thing, but you know, the person who made this shirt just didn't do a good job on it.
So let me introduce my guests this evening. First off, costing a massive £150 is Ola. How you doing, mate? Are you well? You're muted, mate.
I'm good, but I'm good. I swear to you, the thing did not look like it had a mute thing on. But hey, look, thanks for inviting me on this show. Salute for bringing me on. And Happy New Year to you guys, man.
Happy New Year, Ola. Happy New Year, mate. Costing a staggering 15p. It's Mike. How you doing, mate? Are you well?
I'm doing all right. I'm racking up the money for coming on these pods. I need it because we pay our guests, and hey, we've won. I mean, we've won the treble this season. That's basically what I'm here to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, you might be able to afford a picture of the team winning a game soon with the money you're earning from these shows. So keep saving, mate. Keep saving. And finally, that dirty it's Lee Judges. How you doing, mate? Costing a whopping £70,000 a show. How you doing, mate? Are you well?
Well, thank you very much. I'll tell you what, Mike is a big liar, by the way, saying he don't pay his guests, because when I was in America, he promised me that if I went on his show, he would buy me a Baconator, which he duly did, and I duly ate. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's true. Technically, I need to give you the tax forms for that because it was compensation received for services.
Mike be saying he don't pay guests, but he be paying me with PenFed. Trust me, I know about these things.
That's so inside that I don't know why it's on the podcast, but
I'll be taking Ola to Roosters. That's the best place I know where to give him what he's due. So that is our homage. I mean, that's just made me think all nostalgic now about going to games again.
And now we have either Andy or Owen in the pod in the chat as me saying things. That's not me. Just to be clear.
Just to clarify that, if things are said, they're not Mike. It's okay. So here we go. For goodness sake, it's awkward to say this on the show, so I'd rather type it. Tom is my idol, easily the best podcaster out there. Myself and Andy have been trying to accomplish what you have done so many years now.
The way you can tell it's not me is the multiple the typos and the spelling errors and grammatical errors that you would never see that from a Mike post.
Andy is inept at spelling, it seems. So unless it is Owen, it could be. Have you given Owen?
That was Andy all the way. That was pure Andiness.
Let's crack on with the show and talk about yesterday's game in which Arsenal won.
Andy, by the way.
Yeah, what's he doing?
I haven't seen him for ages. Is he all right? Is he?
I think he's the leaker. I think he's the mole, and we're in the process of finding out who the mole is and punishing him. So if you don't see Andy for a while, then you'll know.
Well, if you're the gerbil, so he has to be the mole, surely.
That's true.
So yesterday's game, it's mental to think that a month ago, the different kinds of discussions we were having. Mike, I'll start with you, mate. How have we got here? How have we got to 4 wins in a row from not even being able to see scoring a goal? What has changed?
Mentality, direction, focus, togetherness. I mean, you know, I would say that I say this until I get red in the face, but I normally start out fairly red in the face. So it's chemistry is more important than talent to a degree. I'm not going to say that, you know, a team of really best mates from University are going to beat Manchester City just because they're good friends. But when you mix talent and focus and togetherness together, I mean, we were a team just completely out of sorts, out of sync. Poor decisions were being made by the manager. There's no questioning that. I don't know what his goal was in those first 15 games of the season, or first 15 games, 10, 15 games. But it almost seems as though he's been forced into making the changes that many of us would have liked to have at least experimented with sooner. And it's worked. And for whatever reason, the bad influences in the dressing room, if there are some, and I believe there are, have been outweighed by the positivity and the energy being shown and triggered by the younger players. And I think that's it. I mean, there's no other explanation for it in my eyes.
No, the injection of youth has had a huge impact. And we'll come on to one of the key things of maybe losing an element of that youth in the warm-up. But we will get there to discuss that and some of the implications and reasons as to why that may or may not have happened. Judges, it was an interesting game because obviously we're getting to kind of pick up this form in the league, 3 wins in a row in the Premier League, turning things around and pushing forwards. And ironically, the FA Cup, whilst is a competition we're very much linked with in a very romantic way with how successful we've been in it. Sounds so weird. When obviously you've got that FA Cup game, as Ola's now giving us the up close shot of his hand, which is professional as always, the boy.
That's what you get what you pay for.
I did, yeah. He's the cheapest. He doesn't even know. He's certainly oblivious. Oh, dearie me.
What am I supposed to be knowing, man? Talk to me. I missed all of it.
It's just sort of this going up to the screen, just giving us like up close personal look at your hand. Don't worry, it's good. Lee, in terms of like the FA Cup game, it's interrupted kind of the league form, and it came at a really bad time. But it was important that we didn't drop the mentality, didn't drop the form. But what surprised me was so many people, maybe yourself included, you have to let me know, wanted to see a heavy rotation. We're kind of willing to let this game go a little bit to chance by rotating so many players. What was kind of your mindset about how Arsenal had to approach this one?
Yeah, exactly. I think exactly how he did. To be honest, I thought there would be changes, and I think after a heavy sort of schedule over Christmas, this is why there's always shocks in the FA Cup, because a lot of teams rest players or they're tired. Back in the old days, it was probably more players were tired and jaded, playing on difficult pitches, particularly when you went to the lower leagues, and that's when the shocks were. And I think, you've seen it today. I'm certainly glad that Arsenal haven't done what Leeds done today, where they've made so many changes that they've just sort of thrown it away. If I'll be honest, I think that we went fairly strong as far as players, the senior players. But it was a reminder, wasn't it, going back before Boxing Day, the performance up until the young guns come on again, and it just shows you how bad some of these senior players are at this moment in time, because I'm going to have to say, lads, it was an awful watch up until the changes, the substitutions, and it changed. The game changed, and it was refreshing again, like it has been for the last 3 or 4 games. I know nothing about football, because going into that Chelsea game, I didn't see us winning that game, didn't see us getting anything from it. Chucked a few youngsters in, as Mike correctly said. The manager was making mistake after mistake and putting untold pressure on himself. Played the youngsters that day, and it was refreshing. It was a great performance, and I've seen that 3 games on the spin. And then yesterday brings back the old guard. Oh, it was woeful until the youngsters come on. Smith Rowe has just been a revelation, not just in his performances, but the role that he's playing. It's just made us completely different. I'm going to have to say this now, that the one player that's really stepped up since this change of personnel and the youngsters coming in is Lacazette. Again, when he come on yesterday, I think he showed Aubameyang up tenfold with what he done. You know what I mean? His hold-up play, his movement. It was so much better when he was up top doing what he was doing. So as much as Smith Rowe and Saka get a lot of credit, I think you've got to look at that as well. And I have to say, as much as it's great to see the youngsters, I think Mari at the back has been a revelation as well. Someone that I like to see, because he's just a proper defender. He ain't glamorous. He ain't. He just does what we've been wanting to see from a defender for a very, very long time. Defend, and he does it. You know what I mean? So I'm well pleased with that. Of course, I'm pretty sure we get into it as well. The biggest disappointment for me, and probably was everything for everybody, is Martinelli getting injured before the game. You know, that still. Until I know how he is, I'm restless sleeping until I know that he's not going to be out for too long. Because,
Lee's rolling around in bed worrying about 20-year-old boys.
Martinelli.
Yeah, that's it. But you know what? I think that affected us a little bit as well. I think that affected the whole
First half
team. I don't know. Something about, I'm going to give Arsenal a little bit of a break about it, because I think that with him going down injured, I think he's a key player. I think it affected me as a fan, so I'm pretty sure it affected the fans as well. The players as well. So I'm going to give us a little bit of a break about the performance because of that, but just hope and pray that he's okay.
Lee's going to give us a break about the performance, but Ola, there is a player that I'm not going to give that pleasure to. I'm just going to simply ask you a question using one word, and then I'll let you go for gold. And that word is Willian.
Willian.
Oh, God. Big Willie. Where do we start with this guy?
I thought you were going to talk about someone else then for a second.
That's Lee Judge's favorite player, by the way. He's always praising him when he's kicking the ball to his head. We know that about you, Lee. We know that about you.
No, Mike, let it fester. Let it fester. He won't just let it go. Go on, Ola.
I mean,
talk about Big Willie.
It's got to be the worst. I don't know if he's right. It's got to be the worst signing the worst summer signing. It's got to be right up there, really. This guy, look, we've got him for free, and somehow I still feel ripped off. It's ridiculous. 3 years we're stuck with this guy, and I know people keep saying, yeah, we could send him out on loan, we could sell him. Who's gonna buy that from us? Who's gonna be dumb enough to pay?
Apparently.
Look, I'm praying to the football gods if this is true. I'm not believing it, but I don't see it happening. I think it's a waste of signing. I think he unbalances us massively when we play, and he just slows the game down every time. Every time he gets the ball, you expect to see the Willian that probably we've seen in Chelsea, but we should know by now the amount of Chelsea cast outs that we've had from them, that we're not going to succeed with it. We keep getting all these Chelsea cast outs, and none of them has done nothing for us but take wages out of this club with no return, literally no return on those investments. Even Nketiah is looking like that right now. Maybe we'll get a little bit of money from him, but yeah, it's another one we got from Chelsea. So for me, when you look at the whole, I just want us to stop doing business with Chelsea. The only business we need to be having with Chelsea is taking 3 points from them and knocking them out of cup competitions. That's all I want us to be doing with Chelsea. Nothing else. This Willian, obviously, as we've seen now, it's a big mistake. It's going to be a long, painful one. We're just getting out of a long, painful mistake that we just made, and we literally just walked ourselves into another long, painful saga with Willian. So I don't know how, unless he magically, and I think that's what Arteta has been trying to do. He's just trying to play him into form. Like, yeah. I told you, Willian was good. I told you, Willian gonna be good, but Willian ain't good. There's no good about Willian. Every time I see him on the pitch, I keep thinking we're playing with 10 men, literally, because he does nothing to affect the game. The Fulham game, I think the only reason he was good in that game was because he thought he was still playing for Chelsea and he thought it was a derby. It's got to be the only reason. I can't find no other reason why he played good in that game, and he's been shit in the rest in all the other games he's been involved in. So yeah, bad signing, but not going to kill Arteta for it, because he also brought in two really good players in Gabriel, Magalhaes, and Partey. So not going to murder him for it. But I mean, when you bring in Willian and you bring in Ronaldson, come on, you're going to get people on your neck, and this is the end result of it.
I love the chat just like talking about which Arsenal players, past and present, are better than Willian, and they're going all the way down into the.
Can I just say something about Willian? When he's on the team sheet, right? I'm sure Pepe and Aubameyang are having a big smile on their face, because I'm telling you that they are just as bad as him yesterday. You know what I mean? And it's just Willian gets the pelters, like, so they just sort of think, let him have it, like, do you know what I mean? I'll tell you what, like, Pepe, you know what I mean? I'm sorry, I'm for the ability he's got, £72 million. You know what I mean? Like, in instalments, I hope it's £1 a week. I'll tell you that now, like, you know what I mean?
I'm willing to put that on the line. That's a big statement, I know, but I feel like I'd have rather have got Willian in on a free than spent £72 million on Nicola Pepe at this point.
Yeah, but the point is, neither of them should be on the pitch. And
no, of course.
Whatever you spent them for, I'd rather start Mainsley at right wing if I had to. I mean, and I'm not saying he's the next option. There's many, but yeah, I mean, sunk cost fallacy is running this team right now. People and this fan base, with people thinking that, what you paid for them really, yes, it shows a bad acumen for picking players. Would Zaha have been better? Would a better price have been better? It doesn't matter anymore. It's gone. It's sunk. Make the plays, pick the players to do the best on the pitch. You have to.
We had a super chat from Sam Chester. Thank you so much, mate. It says, I can confirm smashing a like makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside. So if you could appreciate that, Sam, if you could drop a like on the video. We really appreciate
paid you to give you a favor.
I know. What a nice guy. Sam is a lovely lad. Sam is a really nice guy. He's in our Discord.
Sam is fantastic.
He's brilliant. Javier says there is only a few guys worth splashing £100 million on, the likes of João Felix, maybe. I mean, even he's up for debate, and Mbappe. But yeah, £72 million. I mean, Pepe in general, let's talk about that, Mike. His performance was kind of very Pepe. Again,
it's not boring and drab like Willian. It's exciting. It's just not.
But it's predictable, because he gets caught in those tight spaces. He can't get out of them. He gets the ball trapped under his feet. He tries to go onto his left foot. Same thing every time, and it doesn't work. And then gets subbed eventually for someone who's going to give us a little bit more, which was this time Lacazette. So I was surprised he lasted until the second half of added time, to be honest.
Yeah, that one play where we were going left to right. I forget which half it was at this point. Probably the first half. Where there was a good pass, putting him in position, and my 17-year-old son said he's gonna cut back because he needs it on his left foot, and in doing that he completely lost. I mean, his touch was awful, and that was the most Pepe moment of the game. And when we see Kieran Tierney pull off the shot that he did and the goal that he did the other game with his weak foot, it just kind of shows you that Pepe doesn't even have the confidence to even try it. Because he could have been in on goal from a sharp angle, but he could have been in on goal if he had just taken it first time or taken it with his left. So, I've described Pepe as a confidence player, as one who I think is as talented as he showed he was at Lille, but and needed the playing time and needed to be given opportunities and needed to play against lower Europa League opponents and kind of get the best out of that. But look, people can change their mind about things, and I'm changing my mind about Pepe. The more I see from him, the more I don't see him turning it around. And, I'd cut my losses at this point if there were somebody in for him.
I've just seen a mad rumor pop up on my phone about Napoli wanting Tierney, which is hilarious.
My son, I asked my son, speaking of Jake, I asked him yesterday what would be, because he convinced me, and we bought shirts with his name on the back yesterday. I swore I would never buy another shirt with a player's name on the back. I've done 2 years of holding to that.
Now.
I'm sorry. By the way, this is an apology. But he, during the game, he made me do it. We both have shirts with Tierney 3 on the back coming, and I said, what he said, he's one of the best left backs in the world right now. He's prone to exaggeration like his dad.
Adrian Durham thinks that he's not as good as Cresswell, and he's not as good as
not quite.
Luke Shaw.
Yeah, I saw that. But the question was posed to him. I said, what offer coming in would actually convince you to sell Tierney right now? We bought him for 24 just a year and a half ago. I said, what offer? And he said 90 million. Now he's not one to handle money yet. I mean, he's just started to work, and so I don't know that he has the best perspective. But 90. I mean, I'm curious as to what your number would be.
It's priceless, really.
I think he's about right. I wouldn't sell him. He's not for sale.
Between 70 and 90, I think that valuation is nice.
The thing is,
between 70 and 90.
If you're like the $1 Million Man from the WWF, everyone's got their price. Like you can't say someone's priceless. Although I get the sentiment.
Yeah, I know. But what I'm saying is,
I mean, if Barcelona came in with 400 million pounds, you would be selling it.
Oh, yeah, but it'd be silly to say no. But what I'm saying is that. The reason why I say price is not only because of how important he is, because I have so little faith in the club to spend the money in the right way.
Right.
I wouldn't sell him.
Yeah,
we have that player.
How do you think Spurs feel about selling Gareth Bale, and replacing him with the dregs that they did, minus Eriksen?
Yeah.
They swung and missed with that.
I think it'd be a fair price, don't you? Chilwell, someone's just said in the chat, Chilwell went for 50 million. Well, he's twice the player.
I think 70, between 70 and 90 is a good valuation for it. But I mean, we've been blessed with incompetent negotiators at our club. So
we get about
if somebody came in with 70p for Tierney, they'll probably sell him. We've been blessed with rubbish.
I wouldn't do it for 70, because for 70 you can get a guy like Pepe.
Yeah, true. Matt G says,
I feel Chilwell, a few seasons ago. You know what I mean? We was linked with Chilwell.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, when he was before he even got into the first team.
Yeah, and then when we got, we went and got Tierney. Great bit of business, you know what I mean? Because he's just got better and better, and I think he's invaluable to us at this moment in time.
And it's funny because last summer when we were in the Kroenke interview in Denver, when they came over, after the cameras went off, we started talking to him about transfers and stuff, and no one mentioned Pepe, no one mentioned, but Josh literally said, he gave us the kind of the wink and the nod about the Tierney links. He's like, there's one guy that we're really going after, and it was Kieran Tierney, and he was the almost the afterthought to the Pepe transfer, because the Pepe transfer satisfied all the spend more money people, and the Tierney transfer might set up our squad for the next 10 years.
It's a smart signing, and I look at the two kind of last summers that we've had, and I'm seeing encouraging signs with Tierney and Martinelli and Partey and Gabriel coming in. Speaking of which, Lee, Gabriel, will be back on Thursday and available for selection, but you talked about Marie in glowing terms. Does Gabriel come back into the team now, or is Marie your starting centre back?
That is a tough question. That is a real tough question. For me, I'd play both. I would play both. I'd say, Marie, get yourself out onto the right-hand side and Gabriel to the left. We've played centre-halves before that are both right-footed, and no one seems to take anything into that. That seems like that's okay. But two left-footed, it can't be done. It can't be done. But I really do like Murray. I think he's been fantastic in there, But Gabriel has been brilliant as well. So I would have actually liked to have seen them both playing this game in the FA Cup to see if it would have worked. Obviously, I don't think Gabriel's quite fit enough. But, that's what I think that it's worth having a little look at, I'll be honest. But as I say, Murray has done nothing wrong to be left out of this side. So, and the other thing is, clean sheet. I know, Leno made some great saves, by the way, yesterday, and looked a little bit. But I also think that Leno's looking a little bit more confident with a good, solid back four in front of him. It's not all over the place at the moment. There was some bit of dodgy defending yesterday from David Luiz, but you're always going to get that. But what I see with Pablo Mari is he just does if it needs to be smashed out of the park, He'll smash it out of the park. When he gets the ball, if you ever look at him, every time he gets the ball, his pass is straight to Tierney. That's all he does. And do you know what? He doesn't think to himself, oh, I'm a better player than what I am. I'll play into here or play into there. He just does the basic, simple stuff. And I'll tell you what, as a footballer, just doing the simple stuff, he's fantastic. And he's fantastic at doing it. I really, really like him. Really like him. He'll have a shocker now Thursday, but there you go.
Yeah, you know that's going to happen. I agree in the sense that it's exceptionally difficult kind of comparison to make and a difficult decision. I don't agree in playing both of them because in what you were saying kind of earlier on about it can't be done with the left footers and the right footers, and we did the right footed player when we had like Koscielny and Mertesacker playing together, and I believe Calatorre and Sol Campbell, of course, were both right footed as well. But when
Adams, Martin Keown.
Yeah, Martin Keown, of course, yeah. And the thing is, though, with Arteta's system, is that he wants his right-footed centre-back and his left-footed left centre-back because of the way that we play out from the back. And I use this example that if you've got two fullbacks on either side, and if you've got the same footed player in the middle, whichever the weaker centre-back is on their weak side, so if you've got a left-footer playing right centre-back, the pass that goes out to the right-back is an in-swinging pass. And so that in-swinging pass slows down the play, and it also creates the likelihood of a heavier touch from the right back because the ball's coming towards him rather than a left-footed ball on the left-hand side, which is obviously being played through and away from the defender to run onto.
You just have to learn how to scoop it with the outside of your boot, like
of course,
like the Alexis kind of pass that he would do.
And the thing is, though, what I think Marie has been defensively very solid, very, very, very good. But there were some passes that he did get a little bit askew, and if he's making some passes a little bit off on his stronger foot, I would be concerned about trying him on his right foot on the right hand side. But the question still comes down to it of which one plays on the left, because Gabriel has been self-isolating. So fitness-wise, is he up to speed yet? Has he had enough training sessions to be match sharp, match fit to come straight back in? Does he need to be gradually rotated in? Or do you just say, well, Marie's kind of earned his place and now Gabriel has to fight for that back? Some people in the chat made the point that he's faster than what Marie is, which I can't disagree with. Gabriel is a faster defender than Marie. I think Marie's pace gets a little bit overinflated about how poor it is. He's not as slow as some people think. And neither was quite a few players people consider slow. But Gabriel is and has been a complete revelation during the period that we were struggling. He was clearly a standout player for us. And it was only the last couple of games before he had that sending off where he looked a little bit off. And maybe that was just the negativity perpetuating even into our better players. So fingers crossed we see whoever plays on Thursday does an excellent job there. And I think Rob Holding as well doesn't really deserve to be dropped right now. I think he's been pretty good. Ola, if we move the conversation forwards to the midfield, Joe Willock. I know I've given you kind of the two players that I wasn't particularly impressed with, but what do you make of him and where do you kind of see his kind of future?
I think Joe Willock really needs a low move. He was doing all right in the Europa League, games, the earlier rounds. I mean, that's where he's had a lot of his call-ups this season so far. Maybe made a couple appearances as well in the league, but he needs a he needs to go and learn the trade outside of the club. So the way I see it, I think he's suffering from learning the game through the eyes of a different coach, a different way of playing football. Because look at Smith Rowe, regardless of how you think the Leipzig loan didn't benefit him being around those players, even though he was injured during the time, he would have benefited from it. Watching a different way of training, watching a different way of approach to the game, different voice, and going to Huddersfield as well, I'm sure done him some good. So, it's something that I think Joe Willock can definitely benefit from, and come back to Arsenal and try again and see where he gets him. Even now he's been out on loan to Ipswich and places like that. So, there's no reason to to not be able to go and learn his trade properly outside of the club and come back to us a much better and complete player. So for me, I think he's definitely got to go out on loan.
Javier says Joe Willock is a player that fits into a counter-attacking system because he's got legs. I mean, surely every player is going to fit based on those parameters to fit into a counter-attacking system. I'm only joking.
Well,
Javier.
He's got legs and he knows how to use them.
True. That is very true. But the thing is, I agree with that point. He's got legs, but I don't. Other than when you see him at Europa League level, which, if we're being honest, in the group stages against those level of opposition, it's a different ballpark, and he has an impact on those games. But I feel that kind of opposition is his kind of level, and I mean that in the most respectful way possible. I personally, and I've said this a number of times now, that I don't kind of see that long-term future for him at Arsenal. I don't see the progression. I don't see the input. Mike, the next player I suppose to mention is a good one to discuss with you because you've given me untold criticism.
You've been holding Nketiah back on me for a long time. I know you're coming.
I know. I'm now. I've bided my time, and now is my moment. We've got another striker in following Balogun that wasn't included on the bench yesterday. Seemingly that I think pretty much we can all agree that he's going to be gone fairly soon, whatever we make of that. Nketiah has got a year and a half left on his deal, and I wrote a piece this morning which basically was on the tagline of, if we decide to renew Nketiah's contract, that is Arsenal banking on him to be their kind of senior striker between the ages of 21 to 25. It's a senior age, not senior as in like really experienced, but as into the senior squad. Like you're now, when you're over 21, you're into those years where your career is kind of like, you're not a youth player anymore. You're part of the first team squad from the age of 21 onwards, in my view. So if we do renew him, which he would then be nearly 22 by this point when he would renew to he's 25, 26. Do you see that happening? And ultimately, would it be the right decision for Arsenal to do that?
Well, before I grovel and to you and do the thing that you want me to do, I will say that if they extend his contract, it isn't necessarily a sign that they're looking at him as being the number one striker for the next 5 years after Aubameyang ages out and that sort of thing. I mean, I don't think it means it at all. I think it just means it would be a good decision to maintaining his value, because otherwise we're more than likely selling him in the summer when he's got 1 year left, and it's already into that discussion phase of, have we completely lost any value that he might have had in the first place? So, extending his contract wouldn't be a bad thing. In my eyes, he hasn't played well enough to deserve a big bumper pay rise. So I would imagine extending him means doubling his wages. We should extend Saka again right now, even though he just signed an extension. I mean, like those sort of things you have to do to maintain the value. So, but as to his quality, I like to savor over a player for a few years, see their talent, see where their weaknesses are before I really judge a guy. That said what, Mike? Balogun is going to win the. When you
you cut out for a second and you went, that said, and cut out, and we were very much like, that said what, Mike?
That said, you were a little too quick to jump on it, but you were ultimately right. It doesn't mean that you were right then, but you're right now. And in this world where everybody has to be first and right and not flip flop or waver, Eddie Nketiah had no reason to be told he wasn't good enough a year and a half ago, based on his very, very, very limited opportunities at that point. He had no right being, and I'm not accusing you of this, being compared with, being the opposite of Gnabry, where everybody saw that Serge Gnabry was good enough after playing 3 games for us. And I'm exaggerating. Oh, no. But no, he's not the man. And if he has value right now, and I think he would, I think it'd be time to cash in on it.
I mean, Eddie Nketiah has scored more goals, I think, than what Serge Gnabry did. I know he plays in a striking role and not a wing role, but Nketiah is arguably, in my mind and my best memory that I can think of, has done more in the performances we saw at Arsenal than Serge Gnabry did at Arsenal. I don't think Serge Gnabry lit Arsenal up.
But you can see his limitations, though, now that he's been given this opportunity. Yeah. His strength is that, he is, and I say this with all respect, he is a poacher. Yeah. And it is better to poach than not to poach, but that is where his limitations end.
One of the great footballing proverbs from
it
Mike.
Is. I wax philosophical hungover all the time. So look, I mean, it's better to be in the right position for your tap-ins than to not be and never have those opportunities. But can he play with his back to the goal and do what a Giroud could do what Balogun even showed in his brief experiences, what Lacazette does? No, I don't think he can, and so he's kind of relying on quickly whizzed balls, fizzed balls across the box that find him in the right position.
Across the box.
So, you can't rely on those. You're going to go on a major cold spell if that's the only way you can score. So I just don't see it from him anymore, and I grovel and ask for your approval. Am I going to make the team?
I mean, you make it just for using the words. What was it? To poach or not to poach? I think that could have been, if we named our podcast, that's what I would name this one for sure.
You're going to name the podcast after someone that didn't even play in the game that we're talking about during the podcast.
Yes, I mean, these podcasts pretty much go off piece regarding the game, so it's just sort of there as a background thing. Bill Butler, thank you so much for joining up as a member. I much appreciate your support, and Russ Morgan, who's become a member for the first time after being a long-time listener. You've joined up as an expert member, so make sure you get the link to the Discord server and you can join the fun that goes on in there 24/7 every single day. Enjoy it. Mike Hernandez says that was beautiful, Mike. I might get that quote tattooed. To poach or not to poach. Fantastic stuff. Akene says, please, what's the difference between Aubameyang and Nketiah? Please answer this question. Lee, what do you make of that?
Well,
350 pounds a week.
The fact of the matter is that Aubameyang has been poor at the moment, but he's got credit in the bank. Simple as that, and Eddie hasn't. Eddie's got good credit when it comes to the England under-21s. But the difference, when people go on about the under-21s, you're playing against players at the same age as you, at the same level in age and everything like that. It's a different ball game when you're playing at Premier League level. I feel for him. I feel for Joe Willock as well, that they're not, you're asking these players to come in once in 4 or 5 games and perform as young kids. And I think it's very, very difficult. That's why these guys should go out on loan, have 5, 6, 7, 8 games under no pressure whatsoever and see what they can do and then come back. And the trouble with Eddie is he went to Leeds and everybody's expecting great things from him. He hardly played. He come back last season and I think this time last year, and done a job for us. But the fact of the matter is Arsenal have got strikers in there. What I feel with Eddie, and I'm not having a go at him or by any shape or form or whatever. When you see someone like Martinelli come into the side at 19, that is what that's what I expect from Eddie. Someone you think, wow, that's going to excite you. To think, well, this is a player. I don't see that with Eddie. I don't think his hold-up play is good enough. I think he's a very, very greedy player, if I'll be honest. If things don't go his way, but I'm not. That's not a dig. I just see that as it is, and I just see like with someone like Martinelli, if he lays a tap in for somebody, he'll have more pleasure as scoring a goal where Eddie won't do that tap in and everything like that. Listen, for me, if a club like West Ham come in for him 20 million, shake his hand, good luck. And if it becomes a success, good luck to him. This is what amazes me about people. Oh, let's not sell these players because we're worried that they're going to be a success. You know what I mean? Let's get this right. Somebody sold us Martinelli. Somebody sold us Kieran Tierney. Somebody sold us Gabriel. That is what happens. You know what I mean? So if he is going to go over to West Ham, let him. Good luck to him. Gnabry. I don't look back and go, oh, this and that and all that about Gnabry. Fantastic that he's doing it in Bayern Munich. You know what I mean? One of a great player for us when he played. Unfortunately, let's get it right about Gnabry. He was doing really well. I remember watching him against Swansea when he scored and he dominated the game. And I thought, this is a player. Unfortunately, he got an injury, and he wasn't given the chance after that. And that is how it is. But when I see players like Saka and Martinelli coming into the team, and Smith Rowe, now you've got to mention him as well. I look at players and I think, do you know what? Maybe Willock isn't quite good enough. Maybe this guy ain't good enough. So at the end of the day, let them go. If you can get 20 million for them and they go on and develop, then that's fine. I don't see why everybody's so frightened that they're going to be successful somewhere else. You know, I had a great conversation once, not name dropping, but I will, with David Bentley. You know what I mean? Like,
that's Spurs player, you mean, David Bentley?
was he sitting in a Bentley when you talked to him?
You know, he popped in the house for a couple.
He was leaning out of his Bentley to talk to David. That's what's going on.
The point I'm trying to make about him is that he never got into Arsenal side, right? It wasn't that he wasn't good enough, all right? He turned around and said, he goes, I had Robert Perez and Freddie Ljungberg in front of me. I was never going to get the chance there. But so what he done was then he went off to Norwich and he went and developed himself, and you know, he done all right, had a good career. But that was because there were better players than in front of him. Now with someone like Eddie, I'm sorry, there's better players in front of him, and probably the same with Willock. You know what I mean? Like you're not going to let going to give game time to Willock to affect Saka. It's just the way it is. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there. And unfortunately, timing sometimes not right. And you just move it. It doesn't mean to say you're not a good player, like, you know what I mean? Like, you get released. There's players get released from clubs. Like David Platt, for instance, got released from Man United. You know, went to Crewe, come through, done what he'd done for England, but become England captain. You know, every club has got these players, guys. It's just not just Arsenal have got a Gnabry. They've all got them. And it's just that, you know, unfortunately, times there. You know, the greatest one is Harry Kane. If you look at it, if Salgado would have been a success at Tottenham, if he'd have done 30 million and banking goals, Harry Kane would have been gone. It was just that the fact is a matter he bombed out and it gave Harry Kane the opportunity. And look at that. They was going to get rid of Harry Kane. Sometimes football's a little bit of luck, boys.
Well, and if you're not churning out this, churn is the best word for it. And Chelsea's been very good at it. Liverpool's been amazing at it. But you have to have this second tier of footballer that is just almost good enough to make your squad. They'd definitely be good enough to make another squad, and you need to, you know, you buy them for 2 or you bring them through the academy, you sell them for 20, and you start building up a chest that way. I mean, Rian Brewster,
sorry, Mike, and one of the other things as well to back up what Lee was saying there is if we keep worrying about players being sold because they might be better on somewhere, the one thing as a club that we need to do more is put sell-on clauses to these players. So when they do become great somewhere else and they're going to make that club a whole lot more money, we get a slice of it. And that's what all these big clubs do as well. You know, they all do it. So that way we don't feel like we've lost from something that, you know, that
there's got to be some sort of give and take with that, though. I mean, it's like buying an option on a stock in the market. I mean, if there's a sell-on clause, you probably don't get as large of a transfer fee, and you got to pick.
Well, depending on the percentages you put in there.
We do it a little bit. I mean, we received some money from Chuba Akpom recently going to Middlesbrough. We got a bit of money from Ismail Benassa going to AC Milan.
It's huge.
And I think that I know it's not small, but I think it does show that there are changes. But what the whole point that comes back with Serge Gnabry is that everyone remembers Serge Gnabry and Doniel Marlon and Jeff Rain Adelaide because they did something, like because they went off, they left, and they succeeded. But we don't remember the Javier Amichis and the players like that left. The
who's talking about Crawley right now? Daniel Crawley or whatever his name was.
Zelalem, like you think back to he was meant to be big star. Go on, Lee.
Look at Chelsea, like, you know, they had De Bruyne when he was younger. You know what I mean? Probably the best midfield player in the world now. You know what I mean? Salah. So they've all done it. They've all done it. You know, I'll tell you, like the fella with the long hair that plays at Leeds now. Can't think of his name.
Yeah, Luke Ayling.
He was at Arsenal. He was at Arsenal.
Yeah,
you know, you just think yourself, he's a decent player. Listen, you can go on about all the time. Every team's got them, and you just it's facts. And
how come you're not name dropping Craig Eastman from the time that we met him in Sutton that night? I mean, you're talking about David Bentley and you don't mention Eastie.
Don't forget all these players. Don't forget all these players like the Craig Eastmans. I remember that. I can't think of his name. The forward Shabon. I can't think of his name. Played up front. Shabonda was it or something? Jay Simpson. Yeah, Chuba Akpon. Sorry, that's him. Like, you know what I mean? Right. All these guys. Yeah. Where
are you going with before that? You were coming up with some noises and sounds that suddenly merged into Chuba Akpon.
Yeah, well, I'm the Lee whisperer. I know exactly what he means at all times.
Thank you very much. What I'm saying is, these guys went for £2, £3, £4 million. That's paying for the academy. That's those players, right? Yeah, those £3-4 million players, yeah, have got us Saka and they've got us Smith Rowe because they're funded for these two big players, and that is how it works. You know what I mean? So with every one time you get Saka and every time you get a Smith Rowe, there's 5, 6, 7, 8 players that have gone through the system. We've got money for them. Craig Eastman was one of them. But at the end of the day, they're all good enough to go and get a career somewhere else. Now, whether that career is at the top of, say, like a Serge Gnabry, or it's somebody like Craig Eastman that still had a good career, that is how football is.
Yeah, and you're spot on. Go on, Mike. Sorry, what were you going to say?
I was just agreeing with him.
Okay.
And I'm laughing at the chat about trying to
work out what he was saying. What you were
I was nearly right. I got the first bit right.
Where are you going with this? Like, what kind of player? And I was throwing all these out there.
I'm like, he's either talking about Chuba Akpom, who we just mentioned a minute earlier, or he's talking about Shamak, but I don't think so.
Quincy Owusu Abayi, like all these. The thing is, all these young guys. That is how we say his name. That is how you say his name.
We had an entire podcast based around Lee trying to pronounce players' last names. I think it was our charity raffle.
Who was the French guy we were linked to in the summer? Who's the French guy we were linked to from Lyon?
I can get that right.
That wasn't Lee answering the question. Someone just put a plate of chicken in front of him and he got excited. That was not his answer to the question.
Loving life. No, I think that when you look at kind of the problem we've got now, though, is that when you've got this Balogun situation, you've got a situation where he's obviously a year in front of Nketiah regarding his contract. Nketiah is running out a year after. But after we got to make a decision on Nketiah, because if we renew him, what happens to Tyrese John-Jules? What happens to Moller? What happens to these other guys? Because you can only give these players so many chances until these other guys come through. We've got the likes of Aziz and Cottrell and Kerjan, these midfielders coming through. Joe Willock will have to move on at some point to open the way for another youngster to be given a chance. And
exactly. I've got another one that's just come to my mind, and I can pronounce this one. You know what I mean? You're going to be impressed. Andrew Cole.
Yaya Toure.
Get into the side because of a certain Ian Wright. You know what I mean? So what are you going to do? Sell Ian Wright to bring up Andrew Cole? No, Andrew Cole had a great career.
And that will happen. Exactly.
Of course it will.
And Arsenal fans have got like a level of PTSD around the players like Gnabry and Jeff and Marlon, who I have to say Marlon's a weird one because he's not like, I know he's doing quite well at PSV, but he hasn't nailed it down at a top club in one of the top 5 leagues yet. Whereas Jeff is someone that's also brought up when he went to Lyon, has now kind of gone backwards to Nice now. I believe it's Nice. And when you look at kind of the players that we've got coming through, there's some exciting talent that I've already named with Aziz and Moller and these guys. And you've got to give them a chance. If
Balogun gets sold, I'll take 2 days to get over it, and then I'm just going to put all the Muller's going to be.
What I don't like is what I don't like though is Arteta getting blamed for this Balogun thing. Like it's all Arteta's fault because he's not giving him chances. How you couldn't give? We were in a situation whereby
I would have played him yesterday. I would have.
Yeah, so would I. If the contract situation wasn't as it is, clearly the contract situation is to a point where they're going to let him go, and you can't invest any more time in a player that's basically.
If that's the case, then absolutely you're right.
Yeah, of course, and we are talking about if
any possibility that it's still in discussion, then I would have played him yesterday. But I think we probably learned that by the fact that.
And that's why I think Mustafi's not in the squad either. Mustafi wasn't in any of the 9 substitutions. I think it was 9 that we had yesterday, and he's another player that's going to go. And what's good and what I'm seeing from Edu, who has got a lot of criticism, rightly at times, is that we are starting to be a little bit quicker in the market with the things that we're doing. We're seeing Saliba go and get his loan. We're seeing Kolasinac sent out. We're hopefully seeing the back of Mesut Ozil very soon as well. That things are getting done, and that is the most. I don't mind if we don't bring in anyone if we can get out a lot of players, which sets us up for a successful summer window. That's more important to me than this January window is the summer that we've got, because it's so important that we get that summer right with the David Luiz's, Socrates, the Mustafis that are going to be going, Ozils that are going to be going. What's so funny?
I'm laughing at Danny. Sorry,
Danny in the chat.
The chat's outstanding.
Deary me. Oh boy, Danny, do go check out Burkout Wonderland if you haven't already. Great show, fantastic people there. Make sure you go and check it out.
Didn't they let somebody go early on and replace him with somebody, and then and then the guy they let go was really successful somewhere else?
I can't. Who was that? I don't know who you're talking about. Oh, dearie me.
Perfect example of what we've been talking about the last time.
Danny discovered me. That's his claim. Danny he is the Francis Cajigal of the podcasting world.
Danny's our podfather, so in all reality, which is why I endeavor to just look more and more like him every day, as he says.
Lee brought up the only negative news that we had at the start of the show, other than Willian and Willock, but which is Martinelli. And Martinelli's injury is obviously painful for him. Clearly, he cries a lot.
I was going to say I didn't feel it.
He's gonna if he plays on Thursday, he's gonna be the little boy who cried wolf. He is mature and tough, but if he gets hurt, you can't tell whether it's an ACL or a broken nail. I mean, it's just waterworks. It's weird. It scares me. It really does.
I never thought I'd have to use the word alumni in the chat. I actually am right now. But in terms of Martinelli, there has been this thing that I've seen come out, and I know that Arsenal Twitter, and this is not when I say Arsenal Twitter, I'm talking about a very select few, have used this to bash Arteta and to criticise Arteta by saying that he would have never got injured if he wasn't in the squad. Well, yes, you are right. He wouldn't have got injured because that's just. I mean, I wouldn't have, gone to work today if I'd slept through the start of my session shift. I'm just desperate for a session. That's what I'm like. Well, Ola, but when you're talking about
you should be Howard.
Well, there you go. But when I know I'm going this question now, but Martinelli. And what that choice is, it's not down to Arteta. It's not his fault that he got into. It could have happened anywhere. Tell me that I am not crazy.
I'll blame Arteta for everything, mate. All the blame is on his neck. No, I'm joking. Look, these are professional footballers, and when they're out there warming up, things like that can happen. Things like this could, it could happen to anyone, even in training, just normal standard training. So for me, I just feel like the Martinelli situation, they have to get it right because of how long he's been out for. To be out long for that amount of time and not playing a consistent amount of football. His body, I don't know how his body is, his body recoveries, and how detriment is going to be if he gets another long-term injury for him, and especially the mental side of things as well, because it's one thing that a lot of us don't consider when players go off, especially on long injuries with serious surgeries to have to go through. and their mental health coming back from it, that's also important. And for how young he is, they need to, they need to get it right. I don't think it's a situation where they have to rush him back now. We do need him, but we are in a window where we can always get a player to alleviate the problem. But like you, and I agree with you, this window to me is more about outgoings than incomings. And even if we don't bring anybody in, if we can get out a lot of deadwood, I'd be very, very happy with this window. But back on Martinelli, I think they're just trying to get it right, and we have to give a little bit of credit to the doctors and the people on that gets the players fit and get them to get them in their match fit mode. And I think they're doing a good job with him. They've to bring him back because I thought it was going to be later. He was going to be coming back from injury way later than he did, but he came, the injury, he came back a little bit earlier. So they've done a good job with him, bringing him back this early. But now they have to get it right. It's just so important, because we can't have that situation again where we're going to lose him for another 9, 10, 12 months through muscle injury. So Arteta, he shouldn't shoulder the blame. He shouldn't be getting pelters for it. But look, that's why he gets paid all the millions he's getting. So we're just here to talk about it.
No, I agree with you, and it just frustrates me. Like, there's just so many things that sometimes this sections of the fan base can use against certain people, and it's just frustrating. But as we move on to the final round of our podcast today, as we get into the last 10 to 15 minutes of our questions. So if you have got a question you'd like to throw it in, I can see plenty of you are throwing them into the chat box. We will try and get through as many of them as we can, but there are quite a few. So we'll try and answer as quick, or rather they will try and answer as quickly as they possibly can. Mike, let's start with a question for yourself from Pedro, who informs me he is in fact Welsh and certainly not Spanish. And he says, how many of the youngsters would you move on? And I would like you to answer this in your best Welsh accent that you can manage.
5.
5. Was that it? That was horrific.
Yeah. What do you want me to go full Jason Davies here, boyo?
You can go full Jason Davies if you like. No, hold on. About 70%, maybe.
70%? All right. I would move on 5. Do you want to know the who?
Yeah, quickly name them.
I actually don't know. Willock, I would move on. Let's see. Nketiah, I would move on. I guess at this point, you would have to say if Pepe, I would move on. Reece Nelson. I mean, again, you got to keep some of these guys for depth, but I'm now trying to come up with 5 just because I blurted that out. But
yeah,
those are the 4 I would start with, and take it from there. But I would be more worried about moving out the oldsters right now than the youngsters.
Matt G says, why do we spend so long scouting players? We've scouted Buendia for as much as 8. We've scouted him for more than that. Can't we make a decision sooner? We take so long to act. We must have missed out on so many players.
Well, I don't really understand what goes on with our scouting system and all that. I think when you see a player, within 3 times of watching him. You watch him 3 times. That's how it used to be in the old days. You used to watch them 3 times. Then you do a little bit of digging to see what they was like personality-wise. But it just seems to be now all different, and I don't understand why. You can tell a good player, and you can't. I think the eye is still the best test. I still believe in that, and watching these players. And unfortunately, that's why, I would sell, like Mike was saying, a few of the youngsters because they're not quite good enough. But for the Arsenal standard. But I don't understand that, and why that is, and these players, and then these players like Badura and Awar and all that. They're now second in their league or top of their league of their respective leagues. So are they going to want to leave? They're going to want to leave. I certainly, I certainly won't want to be leaving in January if I feel I've got a chance of winning the league or something. I'd wait to the end of the season. So we mess about too much. I agree. Did I say that all right? Anyway?
No, that was fine. I think that scouting in general, of course, it's a combination of lots of things. Statistics, looking at the player. I mean, I used the show that we spoke to Oliver Zeziger, who is a scout for a team in Switzerland that I cannot name for legal reasons. But they talk about how they go behind the. I'm being serious. I can't actually say who it is. But in terms of like they're looking behind the scenes, and I can't hear you, Mike, and I don't care. You're muted.
Probably best that you didn't.
Yes, for sure. But in terms of that's like the length of time, I just feel like we give it like a year, a season, sometimes just too long. And it's like I talk about Upamecano, I talk about Szoboszlai, I talk about these guys that we give them that just extra year to the point where now everyone is aware of them and wants them, and now the fee is 20 million or 30 million pounds higher.
Eden Hazard was the best example of that ever.
Yeah, no,
we were on him before everybody
else. Very differently when I tried to put that on social media, but we'll move on swiftly. Bulgarian Guna says, "How much faith have you got left in Willian?" Says, "Oh, I'm glad I asked you this question actually."
Zero. I don't. Like I said earlier on.
Negative.
I mean, like I said earlier on, the only business that I want to be doing with Chelsea is taking points from them and knocking them out of cup competitions. That's it. I don't want to, doing business with players and all of that with them no more, man. I'm tired of getting Chelsea cast-offs. Tired of it.
You're not the only one. You are not the only one. Mike Sanchester says, "What do you think the Arteta in-out ratio is now, and what does Arteta need to achieve to bring in more in his favour?"
The fact that there is a statistic such as this, even in theory,
hear the facts.
Yeah, I mean the Arteta in-out ratio. Like, can I go on Yahoo and like with my stocks? Can I find out what that?
No, we can determine the ratio with the four of us that's in here. Let's just see who's Arteta in.
Okay, if you are Arteta out, raise your hand. Oh, dollar! This is interesting.
So there's the ratio: 1 to 3. There you go. Very, very easy answer.
You were going to say something.
I think he's very lucky. I think he should have been sacked. You know what I mean?
Yes.
For the results.
I think he was heading in that direction. He was heading in that direction. Some things.
And the simple thing, the only way you win me round, and is by winning games of football.
Winning games.
He's won 4 games, so time that is he stays in the job. As soon as he loses a couple of games, I'm going to be on his back again. That's how it is. Win football games.
Stop football.
Ola,
it's the results business.
Ola, obviously, like you've said there, you're Arteta out at this stage and you would prefer to see him move on, which is absolutely fine. When do you turn around and say, or when does it change? Like, at what point, or what needs to happen for your mind to change on that, do you think?
Achieve our target this season, which would have been at least getting to the top 4. Yeah, we would have been at least getting to the top 4, which is still achievable because of the way the league is. Yeah, the way the season is, everybody's been beating everybody. It's still very achievable. If he pulls that off, then it changed my mind. But right now, I don't think 4 games is enough to just.
No. I'm not saying. You were very much Arteta out, and 4 games. I'm not expecting to change your mind. But say he doesn't achieve top 4. Say if we progress based on last season, we finished 8th. This season, we say we finished 5th or 6th.
Top 6 and the cup.
Yeah, top 6 and a cup.
Europa League.
And to answer Sam's question, I would say globally that the Arteta in and out ratio is probably 70 to 30 in. Most of the ins, or at least let's not get
Where did you just Google or Yahoo that, bro?
Well, I mean, to be willing to say, this is kind of sketchy, but we see some signs, and let's give it more time. Is that being Arteta in just because you're not Arteta out, or is there like a third category in the middle? If that's being Arteta in, I say it's 70-30, and the 30 are certainly much louder than the 70. That's the issue.
Oh, can I just say something? Honestly, and this is honestly, I think the next couple of weeks are key for him because the youngsters that he's playing with, right, have done really well. Does he keep with those youngsters and go back to the crap that he did yesterday, or does he stick with these youngsters? And as you say, there's some big decisions to be made in the next week or so. If Martinelli is fit, if Saka is fit, if Lacazette is fit, does he leave out Aubameyang? Does he keep persevering with him? You know, the big decisions in the midfield with when Partey comes back, who does he leave out? Does he go leave Ceballos out, or does he leave Xhaka out? These are all the questions, and I think in the next couple of weeks, these are going to be big decisions for Arteta. And I'm certainly thinking that he's got to go down the route of the youngsters. But if he goes back to how he has done and starts losing games, he'll lose the fans. So it's I think, very, very key couple of weeks coming up for Mr. Arteta.
And he's got to know better than to play Aubameyang now, because Troops has gone back to New York, and so Aubameyang's headed for another 8 games without a goal, it would seem. So,
oh dear, yeah. If I think
read the tea leaves, guy.
If Willian starts on Thursday, that will kill a lot of fans. It will utterly kill the mood of so many fans if Willian does start on.
You saw my head explode in our chat.
Yeah, of course.
No problem with starting in the FA Cup. No problem with him starting in the FA Cup.
Thursday or Monday.
No problem.
In the starting 11, though, I'm going to really.
And he said after the game as well that he was like, we're going to keep trying with him. And he has to say that because, of course, they've signed him to a 3-year deal. He's not going to turn around and say, no, we're not going to play him anymore. He's not going to turn around and say that, is he? But it's one of those questions where actually I think he was quite honest when he talked about it. He said there are some moments where he's needed help and he hasn't done so well, which I thought was honest of him to say, go on, Mike, I know you're on the edge of your seat there.
Well, the perfect thing for Arsenal, it just came up with this idea. We need to establish an under 33s.
Yeah.
Because we can't send these guys, we either have to play them or pay them for not playing, and you can't have them play more than 1 or 2 games, I think, for the U23s. So under 33 squad, you plug them in there. They play other teams under 33s, and we get value out of it.
Jesus, I think that in a more serious way, I think there is kind of an under certain age that Arsenal should be looking like. You look at RB Leipzig only signing players under the age of 23, and I know they have a very different structure to us, but there is nothing wrong with implementing a model as such. I know there are times where you can sign a Partey who's 27 if they really do transform the team. And I think you have to build the team up to being at a stage where you can introduce an under 23 signing restriction on your market. But we are gradually moving towards that with the signings of Partey and Gabriel and Tierney, etc., and Martinelli. So fingers crossed things change. A few more questions before we wrap up. Lee Ed Welch says, thoughts on the Benfica tie, and do you think we should be prioritising the Europa League?
Listen, I'm going to say something now. You might think I'm silly and all that, but if we'd have beaten Burnley, just one of those games, Burnley or one of those home games, Spurs' game against Aston Villa is going to be certainly got to be off. We would be level on points with Tottenham if we beat Palace, right? And they're having a wonder season, and we're having a terrible season. So things are not all out of the way at this moment in time. Things can change around very, very quickly. I think if Arsenal were to make a couple of astute signings in this transfer window, we could do what Man United done last year and push ourselves in with a chance still. But in saying that, it's still going to be very, very difficult. The Europa League gives us what we want. It gives us what we want. But it's not going to be easy, boys. I'm telling you that now. Man United are in there. Tottenham are in there. There's a couple of other top European teams in there. It's not going to be easy winning the Europa League. So as much as I say, that has got to be the priority. It's certainly the priority over the FA Cup, by the way. That I don't think we've had too much luck in the draws. Yesterday was a tough one to take on Newcastle. We've got a difficult one now, Benfica. And I have a look at some of the other teams that pulled out. We've had a tough draw there. We've got to somehow get through that. And the deeper you go in that competition, the one thing about Arsenal, and whether you love it, rate this team, rate the manager, whatever. We are capable of beating anybody on our day. We're capable of losing to anybody as well. But when you're in the cup, we are very much at this moment a cup team. So there's every chance we probably should prioritise that. At the end of the day, it gets us where we want to be, back in the Champions League. I think that is the key.
I said it on the show. I think a lot of fans are sleeping on the Europa League this season. It's a competition which is winnable for us. We've already reached a final where we just put on a terrible display in the final, unfortunately, in the second half. And I mean, me and Lee were there that night in the club in London watching the game. It was absolutely horrific. Never want to return to that kind of situation again. No. The venue was bad enough, let alone the game. But in terms of the questions coming from the chat, we'll go for a few more. I'm just going to answer this one quickly from MRT. He says, was Willian before or after Arteta was made manager? It was made during the tenure of Arteta. However, what I will tell you from what I can say is that the transfer stinks. It absolutely stinks. There's a guy that's left after Willian came in. That will give you as much of an idea about that signing as you need to kind of have. Arteta signed off on it, but there were things around it that certainly happened for sure. I
was like, are you kidding me? There were 7 months in between, but then I realized he's actually asking when he was promoted to manager, not just coach. And the Arteta signing was about a month before he was promoted to manager, or at least when it was announced.
The Willian signing.
The Willian signing was about a month before Arteta was promoted.
Made manager. So there you go. Ibrahim says, do you see Edu backing Arteta if he decided Willian and Cedric need to go, given the Edu-Kia relationship? What do you think about that,
Ola? I think it's strain it. You know, I think you strain their relationship. I'm not sure who's boss out of the two of them. Would you say? I'd say Edu is Arteta's boss. Within the way the power structure is. So, I mean, you strain it. You definitely strain it, but it shouldn't be the end of Arteta's job, because really and truly, he's the one that picks the players and fields them. So, if he says it's time for Willian to go and it's time for Cedric to go, I think the support of Edu in that situation would be very welcome. But at the same time, the Kia relationship, look, he's got his claws into our club at the moment because of with all these signings that he's been offering us. But maybe the one that I was really curious about to see if it was going to do was the Coutinho one, but it didn't come to pass. So I'm not really for the Kia Jarabchian fan thing here, but I just think Edu would still back Arteta, regardless of, it might strain it a little bit, but I think he'll still back him, because he's ultimately the man that's got to pick who he wants to field on the day.
Yeah, I think the Willian and Cedric signings obviously happened when Raul Sanyehi was the head of football. There is a lot to do with that man and the signings that were made during those periods. I feel like if the decision was made, I think Arteta might be reminded of the financial implications of the deals themselves, and that maybe it's a case of that's why he's playing them, that we've got to make the most of it because we've brought them in. They're not really going to be going anywhere. But Arteta has kind of made a few decisions recently by promoting the youth players ahead of these guys, which has given me hope and given me that kind of extra bit of oomph that actually maybe he is going to change things, and fingers crossed it will. So
at some point, improved play and the promise of financial windfalls coming from that have to override the sunk cost chasing that we keep, that
comes back to Pepe, doesn't it?
Presumably doing. I mean, do you want to play Pepe and Willian because we spent money on them, or do we want to get back into the Champions League and get that money? I just think when there's such a clear dichotomy between the two, you got to go with the one that's going to end up with results on the pitch, not the results in the wage packets. So play the hot hands.
Mike, do you think there is an issue between David Luiz and Arteta?
Yes. I'm accused of buying into conspiracy theories, which is weird because in anything other than Arsenal, in my regular life, I don't buy into conspiracy theories at all. I actually laugh at people that do, but I do, and it's a cross section between making sense, things I've been told privately, and by people who might have some knowledge, and just kind of looking at it holistically and saying, like, when he's around, he seems to have himself in mind more than anybody else. Maybe a good mentor. I'm probably being a bit harsh on him, but I think more than likely he came into this club and says, you know what, I run things here now, and didn't like something Arteta was doing, and I think he could be very disruptive behind the scenes. That said, I have no proof of any of that. It's just pure conjecture. But he thinks that there's an issue. He didn't ask if there was an issue, and I do think
very true. Very true. Matthew De Souza, Lee's final question: are we confident Arteta will stick with Lacazette up top, which is clearly the only option right now?
No, I don't think he will. I think he's going to try and squeeze Aubameyang in at some stage, and I think that Aubameyang's got to start performing, because I think that it could be a problem for us. But listen, Lacazette over the last 3 or 4 games deserves to be in the side. Whether what you think about him or not, whether you think he's good enough or not, his last 4 games, he's scored 4 goals. He's created the chance for the goal yesterday. If he doesn't get his head on that ball, we don't score that goal. He's been playing really, really well. So for me, he's the best of a bad bunch, or whatever you want to say about that. For me, though, he's performed in the last 4 games and deserves his place. Whether I think that, lots of things do still worry me about Arteta and what he does. You know what I mean? And, the Aubameyang situation is not helping. Aubameyang, for a start, needs to start performing, and he's not. But I see Lacazette come on yesterday. His movement, his hold-up play was 10 times better than Aubameyang's. Aubameyang links the goal, so it's a difficult one, isn't it? So, but for me,
how much do you think that goal from last night will help Aubameyang in the next game or in the next coming games?
I think it could be key, Ola. I think it could be a key thing that he did, but it's not. I think it's his general all-round play that's worrying me. It's his body language, his work rate ain't as good. Do you know? Let's put it this way. Do you think he would have put his head where Lacazette did for that goal? I don't think so. I think he'd have turned his back and whatever. You know what I mean? So I'm not. I think at this moment in time, I love Aubameyang. Don't get me wrong. When he's scoring goals and playing really well, he's fantastic. But he's not at this moment in time. He doesn't deserve to be in the team, boys. If I'll be honest, doesn't deserve to be in the team.
If Martinelli's, sorry,
he'll play because Martinelli's out.
If he's out, then Alba on the left, Laka in the middle, Saka on the right,
that would be the team. That would be the team. Yeah,
or every time you can possibly do it if they're rested. So I mean, I don't think they have to decide between the two of them right now at the 9, because they're going to be playing together as they have so often with Alba on the wing. But that's only because Martinelli is hurt in my mind.
Well, I think he's better on the wing. I don't know about I know people keep saying about pushing him on the front. I think he's better.
There's a lot of questions about Willian, obviously, and Arteta situation as well. There is a final question that I wanted to ask. I can't actually find it because I think it may have gone up with all the heaviness of the questions come through. Do claim it. I'm sure anyone will now claim it. If you did play it, and I'll put it up. But Ola, there was a question earlier on. Everyone's like, it was me. Final question, Ola. Do you give Granit Xhaka a new contract?
No. I still haven't. Look, I don't want to say I hold grudges, but if you come and apologize, it might ease it a little bit. And that incident that happened where he dashed the armband on the floor, didn't want to come off the pitch, insulting the fans and all. I still haven't forgiven him for that one. And then he comes and does what he does, gets sent off, and no apologies to the fans, none whatsoever. I mean, Gabriel got sent off and immediately was on social media apologizing, and he didn't even. He said Gabriel sending off wasn't even like a violent conduct or anything like that. It was something that happened in passage of play. With Xhaka, he actually went to incite violence, if you like. So, I won't give him another contract. I think we deserve better in the middle of the park. us as Arsenal fans, we've been very, very patient dealing with, average players, mediocre players. We've been very, very patient, and we've seen a lot of them come and go. And we need better and deserve better than Xhaka at the moment. And hopefully, that's the trajectory that we're going to start going once we start offloading all these other players.
No, I agree with you. There's players at the club that you'll look at. We look at Lacazette as another one. Whilst their form may become better briefly and may look better, you can't just suddenly base the next few years, which would take them into their 30s, and you do as well. They're sellable assets for me with a couple of years or 1 year in Lacaz's case left on their deal. We should look to move them on. If we can't, then their deal will run out, and we just move on from this phase of players that we've had at the club for a long time now, and we move on to invest in the younger players that we've decided to bring in.
Absolutely.
That rounds off the question section and, of course, the show for today. There is one more thing that we have to do each before we do wrap up, and that's look ahead to the next game with a slight twist on the prediction, because I know that a lot of the listeners have been asking this question, so I'm going to combine it with a prediction. We have Crystal Palace on Thursday, so I'm going to ask you guys for your scoreline prediction. I would also, Mike, starting with you, ask for your prediction and an answer to the question, can fish fly?
I don't know. There's a lot of fishing going on in our WhatsApp chat, so I would say probably so. Yeah. I actually
depends if that fish been drinking Red Bull.
You'll get your chance, Ola. I'll ask you the question.
I'm actually out of the loop on this. I heard you talk about it before the thing. I've seen it in the chat. I'm out of the loop on what that's all about, actually, if there's a backstory to it.
What, the flying fish thing?
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It literally has come out of nowhere. I don't know when or why it happened, but it just started.
He did even ask, how do you cook flying fish? Which I've got a very, very good answer for.
Well, again, Ola, you'll get your turn, son. We'll get there. We'll get there.
You're taking my opportunity.
So, scoreline prediction, Mike, for Thursday.
Palace. Shit things happen when we play Palace. Just every time we play Palace, Xhaka's strop.
Yeah.
The 4-0 loss that we were at, the you're not fit to wear the shirt game. I hate picking wins against Palace because we just don't do it. Yet I'm gonna go 2-1 Arsenal.
Yeah, after all that.
Although if we start Willian on Thursday, it'll be 5-1 Palace.
Fair enough. Lee, scoreline prediction for Crystal Palace, and can fish fly?
Fish cannot fly. Simple as that. Not in my book they can't. So unless you Billy the Fish, so that's it. So that's that.
You're gonna get.
Oh, do you know what? Crystal Palace have got everything that we're weak at that they can exploit. You know what I mean? Like they're hit us on the break, and that's what I fear. Ultimately, I think we spoke about Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace also cost Emery his job, in my opinion. You know what I mean? When he that calamitous game at the Emirates that causes problems time and time again. I don't think we'll win this game. I think that. I see the way we played yesterday, and I feel that maybe a draw. Maybe a draw.
Okay.
1-1.
Scoreline and can fish fly?
Well, you know what I was thinking? I'm sorry.
All right, you got me, Mike. You got me. Fish can't fly. And 2-0 Arsenal.
That was easy. Love that. Really.
You're keeping Zaha out of the goal. I mean, I don't see how he doesn't get at least one tomorrow.
Yeah, that is. He'll get a penalty. That's for sure. That's what's going to happen. He'll go down for a penalty. I'm going to go for no. Of course, fish can't fly. But members, if you could fill the chat box with our flying fish emoji, I'd really appreciate that. After all the time and effort that went into making it, it wasn't me; it was the person I paid to do it. Thank you ever so much for listening, guys. Really appreciate your time. I'm going to go for a 2-0 victory against Palace, and just pray that the footballing gods are shining upon us once again for our 5th win in a row. Fingers crossed. It's a tough one, but we're hopefully going to get it over the line. Thank you, Mike. Much appreciate your time, mate, this evening.
Thanks for having me on. It's always an adventure. I don't know why you still do it, but I'm glad that you do.
Oh, you booked it, so I had to kind of. And do you want to tell people where they can find you and what you're going to be up to with TGP?
Yep, at the Gooners Pod. Had a couple of interesting podcasts this week. One, if you haven't seen it, go
Very
back.
Expensive one. A very expensive podcast.
Oh yes. Apparently, we paid £200 to have Charles Watts on, which is the biggest load of crap I've ever heard. But check that one out on Wednesday. From Thursday, actually, we had a DC United beat reporter who's an excellent journalist, just like you, Tom. To talk about the kind of now rubbished Ozil to DC United rumors, but ended up having a nice chat with Owen and Andy and Soph, who came on at the end. But you can go to the Gooners at the Gooners Pod. You never know when we'll pop up next. But thanks again for having me on, Tom.
No
and it's
problem,
good to see you, two of you guys. This is old school stuff right here.
This is old school TGT right here. Oh, TGT OGs on this show this evening. Lee, thank you for the time as always, mate.
No worries, really enjoyed it. Thanks for having us on. I always enjoy coming on, and always nice to chat to you boys.
You can find Lee at Lee Mark Judges, and of course the same old Arsenal as well, which I assume you'll be recording tomorrow. Is that right?
That will be tomorrow. Yeah, we'll be doing that tomorrow.
So make sure you go check out.
That was the longest sentence to ever say the word yes.
Yes.
24 words to say yes, we're podcasting.
Oh, dearie me. Thank you very much, Lee. Much appreciated time. Ola, cheers, fella, for coming on, and pleasure to see you again. And I'm fingers crossed. I'm looking for the only reason I want lockdown to end is so me and you can head to Roosters for our wrap.
When we get the chance, it's definitely got to happen, man. It's got to happen. For real. But thank you for bringing me on, man. And it's so nice, chilling and talking Arsenal with you guys, man.
Yeah, 100%, mate. You can find Ola at Black Scorpion 3, and you're still doing the fighting.
The Combat Show.
Yeah.
You can find us on YouTube with the Combat Show every Friday at 9:30. A lot of fights coming up in the new year, so come join us if you like combat sports. Boxing,
do
MMA.
The Twitter arguments between Arsenal fans.
I was going to say Charles Watts featuring.
No. We're talking real beautiful violence here, man. You know what I mean? That's what we deal with. None of that Twitter finger.
I think you've learned to appreciate the beauty of a good Twitter argument there, Ola. Dear me. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for listening this evening. We really appreciate you tuning in and dropping a like and contributing as always. If you're watching on playback and you'd like to leave a comment based upon what you've seen today, maybe don't. But I really appreciate a kind comment in the description and in the comment section. If you'd like to join up as a member, as some of you guys have today, Russ has joined up, and we were also joined by Bill Butler as well. So thank you guys for joining up and helping support the channel. We'll see you again very, very soon. It's been a pleasure to speak to you as always, and as always, up the Arsenal and cheerio.
Salute.